right, away from politics to some other matters. Sometime last week, the president, Muhammadu Buhari, signed into law the Not Too Young to Run bill. And some of us were actually surprised when the president said, the age for governors and the Senate, were not altered. He also expressed his willingness to ensuring that that part of the bill is worked on maybe in the nearest future. Who knows when that future will come. All right, all we're saying here is that the bill has been signed and the needful, will have to be done. All right, we'll be looking at these more as it relates to the Not Too Young to Run bill. And to do justice to these and other questions that we'll be posing to them, one close to my left, Maryam Laushi. She is part of the Not Too Young to Run movement and also part of the strategy team. Thank you, Maryam, for finding out time to be here today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and far to my left, but closer to Daniel Nwagboso, is Frederick Adetiba. Frederick, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All right, very quickly, let me start with Maryam. I saw, the president doing all of the signing with a whole lot of youths, clustering around, giving him a round of applause and all of that. And many of us were just looking and we never thought that there could be a place where these guys, in quotes, decided to leave untouched. Were you surprised when the president made that comment?
About the governorship?
About the governorship age level and that of the National Assembly members.
Well, I wasn't surprised because this is something that it was so obvious to us. It wasn't the bill that we initially proposed. And the bill that went to the Senate actually was for alignment of all ages to be 18. So it was surprising that when the two committees met from the House and the Senate, that was the final decision that they made. But the youth, those of us who have celebrated, are just happy that we have some wins at least. Yes. All
right, Frederick, do you have a contrary view to that?
No, not at all, not at all. But for us, we actually thought our expectation was actually to have the age qualification reduced across board. But I was a little bit surprised when it came out and we discovered that of the Senate and the governors were not touched. That was quite surprising. But like she said, at the end of the day, we have some wins, and so that's a step. And we intend to take it from there.
Now let's look at the bill in its entirety. Now, for me, I feel if I'm eligible to vote at 18, I should be able to vie for political office even at that point. Now, what do you think are the discrepancies playing out here?
That's quite interesting. Like Miriam said, two sets of bills we actually sent out. The one that went through via the Senate, the proposal was actually this point, to say if you are eligible to vote at 18, then nothing should actually stop you from being able to actually run for office. That argument and that conversation is something I think that we have to keep up. We have to maintain that conversation. We have to keep up that conversation to say, hey, we have to find a way to continue to open up the space. So I think what we need to do as young people in this country is to keep up that conversation. To say if I'm eligible to vote, then I should be eligible to contest for elective office.
Okay, now there was a report that we had last week, and that was the Deputy Senate President coming out to defend that clause that was expected to have been reviewed. And he said why they retain that age for senators and governors is that, one, for governors, they just use their own discretion to say, okay, someone who is 35 should be old enough to handle the affairs of the state. Secondly, for senators, that by the laws of the land, a senator can be president. So if that age is lowered, if there's a case of impeachment or the case of where the president and the vice president is not around, it means that the senate president can assume office, which is in contradiction to the age. So what did your group see in all of this argument or this defense by the Deputy Senate President?
To some of us, I don't know, personally, I don't think that, because of course they've taken a position, and then what they want to do is to find a way of justifying the position they have taken. The provision of the Constitution that we're looking at amending talks about age qualification for contesting. You understand? When something happens and the Senate president, has to then assume the position of the president, that is not contested. You understand? That's the way I say it. Maybe the lawyers will have a different view but for this, it's not contesting. It's actually assuming a position as a result of vacancy.
Yes, or necessity.
Yes. But in this case, what we have in the Constitution is age qualification for contesting. So I don't think that actually, that defending that position is...
It's not a valid argument because you could say the same thing for governors, because if something were to happen to a governor and a deputy governor, the Speaker of the State House of Assembly would replace them.
Yes.
And if they feel it's okay to place that standard for the presidency, you have the same predicament in the state, because what if a 25-year-old is the Speaker of the State House of Assembly and something happens to the governor and the deputy governor? They would have to be replaced. And so it seems as if there's a double standard where it matters in terms of the presidency, but it doesn't seem to matter as much for the position of governor. So and then we had reassurances in the beginning during our advocacy from the Senate that they would support this age reduction. So it seems as if later on now there's a new argument about it, but at the end of the day, even the initial bill that was presented to the Senate was for alignment 18. So if they had a problem with the way the Constitution works in terms of somebody younger replacing, then they should have aligned the ages to be 18 so that anybody could contest or replace.
So are you saying that actually the initial plan of the group was to peg the age limit at 18?
I would say yes,
because there are two. There are two actually positions. The bill. We had one from the House of Reps.
Yes.
And the other one from
the Senate.
The Senate. The one from the Senate actually focused on 1818. And the thing is, if we have that, just like what he said when we started, if we have that, then there's really nothing wrong with that, really. Do you understand? Because at the end of the day, what you have to do, what we are asking for, is basically open up this space. All right. We're not saying put a barrier or shut out the older people. We're just saying open up the space and let young people be able to actually, vie for elective offices, And so if they are able to do the work, and if they show that they are competent, you understand, and people can believe in them, I think they should be given the opportunity to run.
And I would like to add that, because we have had these older ages in Nigeria, it makes it easy for us to say, like, okay, let's just bring it down to 30, let's just bring it down to 25. But at the end of the day, if we're saying age should not disqualify anyone, then it should be 18. Ideally, that is the age that it should be.
But there's also a school of thought that this bill would favor a class of young people who probably are in the class of rich kids or have rich parents that can sponsor them for elections, which boils down to the fact that we have these older politicians fueling their own kids to continue ruling. What's your take on this?
Okay, I've heard that in a couple of quarters myself, but the point is this. One, I think one thing that we're trying to do is, this is a democratic process, right? So everybody should be able to contest and to run for office. Irrespective of your class, irrespective of whether you're poor, whether you're rich, if you have the means, everybody should be able to. But I think also that Nigerians, in terms of political awareness, we're actually growing. You understand? Because at the end of the day, it's going to be about what you are able to offer. I know money plays a very huge factor in our political process, there is no doubt, but I feel strongly that at the end of the day, it's going to be about what you are able to offer. Because Nigerians are increasingly becoming aware right now, so they want to know what it is that you actually bring it to the table. And right now, people are asking questions. So if you say you want to run for office, what have you done before? What is your pedigree? What are your antecedents? So these are the things that will actually come to the limelight. And so if, in a case where we have children of the rich, if they are qualified, you understand, and so I don't think anything should stop them.
No, so people may see it as the fact that their parents may be using it to fuel their own agenda.
Okay, going by how this actually came about, I can authoritatively say on this platform that this amendment was not an initiative of any class of people. This was strictly initiated by young people. And I don't mean young people, I mean your regular young people who are passionate about Nigeria, young people who are passionate about, changing the fortune of this country. And trust me, a lot of sacrifices went into this process. And so for me, I'm excited, that for the first time, you're having young people come around. And these guys are, we're just regular folks. And so that gives me a bit of confidence. So this has nothing to do with rich people at all. Trust me, it has nothing to do with rich people.
All right, Miriam, I'm bothered, as a young guy, and my query is this: we have beautiful laws on papers, beautiful constitution never implemented anywhere, or never implemented to the latter. Now, are you worried about the implementation of this act?
I'm not worried. The fact that it has been signed into law means that the space has been open for young people to participate. The only thing now that's really important is for young people to take the opportunity. One of the most important things we can do right now is make sure we collect our PVC, because that's what's going to determine who wins elections. And if we are saying young people are coming out, there are like a ton of young people who want to contest in 2019. And if we are saying they're coming out, then we have to really be involved in the political process, not just by contesting, but asking questions like Fred mentioned, choosing a candidate that gives you the best answers that you can, vote for, as well as hold accountable after, if they end up winning, a seat in an electoral seat. So that is the main power lies with the people. That is what I believe. And I think Not Too Young to Run as a movement has shown that the will of the people, if you really organize, it's something that can be implemented. So young people get their PVCs, ask questions, support the right candidates, vote and campaign for, the person that you believe will do the best job, and hold them accountable after. That is what's going to make Not Too Young to Run something that, is implemented in real life.
Well, Frederick, let's boil down to the political parties, because as we speak, we don't have that platform where you can vie for elective offices as an independent candidate. Do you see this as yet another hurdle that this bill should be taken care of in the nearest future?
Yeah, I've been saying this, and we've been having this discussion amongst my colleagues. One of the biggest catch for me in the original proposal that we sent out was actually the independent candidacy, because that would have been the game changer for us. And right now, young people would then need to, contend with the old folks in these parties. So I agree with you, it's still some kind of impediment, but, like we've all said, it's a win already. So what young people have to do right now is to get into these parties. But in the nearest future, we've said it, I will continue to have this conversation, that we're not going to rest on our oars regarding this other provision, because as long as young people can't run as independent, it will pose that difficulty, on a number of fronts. For instance, money. Money is a huge factor, where you have to get the delegate and all of that. Recently, we saw a former senator, talking about how, they use money to bribe electorate and all of that, And so that is still going to pose a challenge for young people running for elective offices.
Miriam, what do you think the young guys should be doing right now?
Well, there are 71 parties registered in Nigeria, which means if you're running for office as an independent candidate, it means that you have popularity and you have the money to print your posters and visit people and talk to your constituents. Therefore, what that means to me is it doesn't have to be APC or PDP. If I can run independently and say I'm running based on my popularity and me sourcing my own funds to run, then I should be able to be successful in any other political party that I choose, even if it's not recognized, because I'm a recognized person. So for me, it's like, it doesn't have to be APC or PDP. If you're an independent candidate who can do this, then look for a party and join it and, try to make your way in that party.
Yeah, but if you look at the electorate who for the past 19 years have been induced financially, and some of them publicly selling out their votes for as low as 1,500 naira, 5,000, depending on your strength, your bargaining strength, and all of that. Do you think the average youth, as far as this country is concerned, can have all of the financial muscle to pull through an electoral process?
Fred said something earlier, and I kind of agree with that, in the sense that yes, money is a factor, but it's time for young people to become creative.
Yeah.
If we need to do crowdfunding, that's what we need to do. Raise money for each other to run for political office. It may not necessarily be, vie for the office of the president. Think about, the lower offices, State House of Assembly. There are even lower offices than the State House of Assembly that young people can decide to go for right now, which doesn't require 100 million naira to go for. So we have to start, building from the bottom and not just to expect, okay, let's get 100 million and start from the top. Let's build from the bottom and see there are opportunities. There's a 24-year-old in Kenya last year who won elections because he was just popular where he was, and he didn't spend any money. He went door to door asking people, give me your vote, this is what I plan to do. And that just showed that the people believed him and they voted for him, and that is, I think, the beauty of Not Too Young to Run. It means that in your community, if you're popular, people know you, trust you, and you do your legwork, then there are many possibilities you can get from this.
Frederick, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like she said, I think we just have to get creative. We know that money is an impediment, and we can't just put it there. So because of money, we won't make effort. So what we need to do is to start thinking out of the box, outside the box, to see, okay, how can we be more creative, about raising funds for our processes. And like she said, you don't have to just start from the top. We can always start from the grassroots. And the young man in Kenya, 23-year-old, when he won the election, I actually ran as an independent candidate, and that's like a template for us.
But now the 23-year-old, begs the question, around the fact that do we really have politicians who have the political will to give the youth a chance to run as an independent candidate? Having at the back of your mind the fact that you also pushed for younger ones to be included, and look at what the bill turned out to look like. Do you think there's a political will? If you talk about Kenya, we all know what Kenya is all about. Their politicians are up and doing, and most of them are actually young. Do you think we have the same crop of people? 2019 is just around the corner. We've seen the articles flashing. We've seen the Buharis. Even the president also said it right there and then, that you guys should not contest for the office of the presidency until after 2019. Yeah, it was a joke, but it's coming from the highest office, if you ask me. And either you like it or not, either you like it or not, people will take it hook, line, and sinker. Even though it was a joke, because for me it was just on a lighter note. But don't forget, it's coming from the #1 citizen of this country. Do you think there is a political will to drive home all of this?
All right. Let me. Okay. Even though you've said it, let me just to clarify this further. That that was just on a lighter note, because I noticed that a lot of people are actually making a big deal out of this.
But if you say a lighter note, let me add to what Pius has just said. The same day the president signed the Not Too Young to Run bill, the same day the APC announced a 74-year-old man to be deputy running mate to fire me. And PDP actually has a man in his late 30s to be the running mate for Professor Kolakpo, who is going for the PDP. I mean, there are lots of reactions to this. I mean, if you were on social media, that day, social media went agog with the Not Too Young to Run bill. And shortly after we saw the announcement from the APC in Ekiti State, it was in direct contrast to what was just signed. And like Pastor asked, do you think we have leaders, older leaders now, who have the political will to let young people actually, or do they just end up as SAs and PAs and aides and all of that?
Okay, I have something to say about this. The thing is, we cannot expect them to just give it to us. As young people, advocating for this bill took us 2 years, and before us as the Not Too Young to Run strategy team, people have been doing it for another 8 years, and they didn't make any progress. And this is the first time that the progress has been made. Why? Because we came out to march in thousands twice within the past 2 years.
Do you have to do that before a bill of such magnitude should be signed?
in a democracy where there are people, these are things you have to do. It's not going to be an easy step. Just like we said, there are wins, little wins and losses, and we have to keep trying to make the progress. The struggle should not stop. But expecting them to want to give it away is not something that's just going to happen. And in terms of, APC picking a 74-year-old, this is at the moment. But anybody who wants to progress as a political party, everywhere in the world, you see that this is the trend. In Spain, their new prime minister is 46. Yeah. In Austria, the guy is still in his 30s. Yeah. You have the trend in France. The guy won the president. He became president at 39. So that's just the trend in the world right now. And for any political party who wants to progress, you have to be youth friendly. You have to open up the space for young people. And although we want a lot of young people inside, it's also important to stress that your age isn't what qualifies you. We would be able to have, an intergenerational dialogue and collaboration that would make it work. So young people go for it, older people go for it. Let's get the best people, regardless of their age, to do the job.
Okay, Frederick now. I mean, she was giving us some very good example of some countries. Just recently in Italy, they appointed a man in his early 40s as prime minister with no political experience. That was the big news in that story. Yeah. No political experience. Early 40s. In fact, the two coalitions came together and said, you know what, we can't get to a truce. Let's just give this guy. And as she has said, it's a trend now. The governments across the world are becoming youth friendly. Do you think that experience would hamper the chances of a young man who's 25, who probably should be serving or just completed his youth service to vie for office and be considered a viable candidate? Do you think the older ones will say, he doesn't have experience, what does he have to offer?
Absolutely. I mean, two things, she's talked about, the first question was about the political will, and then this one, just adding that together about young people, about older people using the excuse of experience. Of course, they will also want to use all of the things in their arsenals and all of the, excuses that they would want to put together to actually stop young people from running for office. They would, like Maryam said, the thing is, they will not just let go without a fight. You understand? I think it's basic human nature.
No, Frederick, does it really call for a fight?
Exactly.
Does it really call for a fight? No, we are not
it calls for an amicable transition.
We are not saying that you guys should go, to the oblivion or something, or just get, whisked away or disappear from the scene. No, we are saying you are still there, but give us an opportunity. Is that too much for us to ask as young people? So why would you tell me that
it's not too much for us to ask?
I don't even expect that you guys will go out there and carry out a protest march or something else. And I don't see it from that perspective. So that's why we are questioning the political will.
Yeah, the political will is not there. That's just the fact. It is lacking. We're in an environment where when people hold on to power, they don't want to let go. That's our own peculiar situation, and we just have to accept it. You understand? Because we can't have this dialogue. We can't all of a sudden expect Nigeria to become like Kenya or like France all of a sudden. Unfortunately, we have older people who want to remain at the helms of power, who want to continue, who want to perpetuate themselves around the corridors of power. But now, that being the case, young people, what are we going to do about this? You understand? Because we can't appeal to their emotions and their consciences for them to let us.
True.
You understand? So since we've seen that this kind of environment we found ourselves, it's a peculiar environment, so we are now saying, okay, let's do something about it. Because if we sit back and do nothing about it, I can guarantee you that many more years to come, you still continue to have the 70-year-olds, the 80-year-olds running the affairs of this country. So what we are doing right now is to say, okay, what are the things we can do to open up the space? And that's one of the reasons behind our push, for reduction in age qualification. So that's actually a step. So this is us not just sitting back and expecting them to put this on our laps, because that will not happen.
Okay,
all right, Daniel, you have to hold your thought there. I have to pay this bill, otherwise I will be billed. All right, Frederick and Maryam are still in the building, and we'll take a very short break. All right, we're still talking not too young to run. Act no longer a bill. It's an act of a parliament as we speak. And then Maryam, Frederick, and we'll also have Mac on Skype, where we'll also be digging deeper into the not too young to rule. But before we have Mac, on Skype. Let's engage Maryam and Frederick in the studio. Now, Frederick, let's look at our leadership style in this country. I've seen over and again where we have politicians that just come and quote and unquote sweet mouth the people, come during electioneering campaign closer to the people, and immediately you are being sworn in or immediately you win the elections, security personnel will barricade your house that used to be a stadium for the people and all of that. And 4 years after, nobody sees you down the line where you used to be. You know, some of them even relocate from their, you know, initial place of abode, you know, to the highbrow area. What do you think the youth will do differently, putting all this into cognizance?
I can't speak for the youth in general sense, but there's one thing that I know, and that is the fact that we all are agreeing on the fact that these things have to change. And what we're looking at is a complete overhaul of the entire political process. You know, and now we have an idea of the kind of country we want. We want a country that works. We want a system that works, you know. And so for us to be able to build that system, we have to change our outlook. We have to change our processes. We have to change the way we interface with the people. I think it was the Italian guy that just came. Is it the recent? I think was it the Italian.
Yes,
recent
Italy.
guy? You know, when he was actually going to submit his credential, you know, I think I saw him coming driving in a taxi. You know, no convoys, no. You understand? Because, you know, another thing is it's also our value system.
Yeah.
Our value system, because you think if you drive in a certain kind of car, it makes you become a certain kind of person. No, you know, the problem is actually with our value system, because it's about service, it's about delivering service, about, you know, being with the people. So I'm hopeful, you know, that these things will change. You know, I'm hopeful that these things will change. But my concern, however, is the fact that the older people just have a way of transferring this wrong value system into the younger ones. And that's where we have to continue to work. You know, that's where we have to continue to provide that intervention to let young people know that, hey, these people have worked and have operated with all of these systems and processes for over, you know, how many decades now, and look at where all of this has brought us. So we have to change our orientation. You understand? We have to change our orientation. So that's one of the things that we will continue to do as youth movement across the country, to say, hey, we have to change our system.
All right, I think we have Mark on Skype now. Hello, Mark.
To join you.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for joining us via Skype this morning. Tell us what your views were when you heard the president talk about the age that was not being tampered with by the legislators, talking about that of governorship and members of the National Assembly.
In a way, I was glad you brought that up, because we share in disappointment that for us, still desire that it should be the same as for every office. But, you know, in politics and there's some compromise, and we are going for the election by 5 years of it's sadly didn't follow the governorship. But it also tells us one is not over. We are hoping to continue to push for the ages guys at 18, for independent candidates, and to look at other factors to prevent young people taking part active and government.
Yeah, Mark, before you joined us on Skype, we're talking in the studio here with Maryam and Frederick, and we try to, as much as we can, dig deep into knowing what the political will of the current politicians that we're having will be as it relates to the not too young to run bill. Do you think the youth will have it easy, you know, on all of this? And do you also think that we have a political will to drive home, you know, the chances, you know, for the youth to pick up political appointments or political offices?
Well, hardly anything comes. You have to push and check. So we will not they're going to be, but we always dedicate with our education system and get what we wait. It took us 2 years to get, and many advocacy courses they become like, but we stay the course. So we believe that stay the course on other activities we are pushing for that so we have. Well, for political will, it's a good big not exactly but it's more issue. It's more one of the biggest very negative
Okay, Mark, you may have to hold your thoughts there. We'll come back to you in the next couple of minutes. Let's engage Miriam. Miriam, he's trying to say that they will continue to push. Of course, you've said that earlier on. But like I was saying, that the political will, for me, is something that you guys really need to work on. Because until we get to that point, I think, the Not Too Young to Run bill might just be an effort, not in futility, but an effort that has achieved a lot, but implementation and having the opportunities might also be, a serious barricade. Now, at this point, what do you think your team should be doing?
Well, can I just say
Yeah, go ahead.
that it's not just the Not Too Young to Run team. This is a whole country, Nigeria.
Yeah.
And there are millions, tens of millions of young people who have a lot at stake as well. So first of all, it can't be the Not Too Young to Run team doing everything to fix youth inclusion in politics. We would like people to get in touch with us so we can all, work together to have a better nation and a more inclusive political system. In terms of political will, of course, like right now, our next initiative as the Not Too Young to Run team is Ready to Run, which is, us gathering, first of all, a database of young people who want to run for political office in the coming elections or the one after, and also trying to provide them with the kind of support that they would need, and also tracking what they have done after they win. So this is something that we're doing on our part to try to get young people to participate, but we encourage more Nigerians to take this as more of a responsibility for everybody, because we all have a part to play in making sure that we are included in the process.
Okay, let's take a look at a part of the bill that has been crossing in my head for a while now. We remember that the last administration, we had women come out to advocate for 35% affirmative inclusion in cabinet. That is not for elective positions, not this for appointment. And the last president honored that call to a reasonable extent. Did the group think of such as part of the clauses in this bill? At least to commit the leadership to a certain extent, even not 35, maybe 25, maybe a few of the very sensitive young people related positions to be given to people within this age bracket. Did they consider this?
Okay, you mean for women?
No, for young people.
For young
now,
people.
yes, in this context, now for young people, appointive positions.
Okay. I don't think the Constitution, anywhere in the Constitution, has that provision to say, okay, this in terms of appointment and all of that. Appointment generally is at the discretion of the executive,
Yes.
and whoever is in the position. What we set out to do was to look at the constitutional barrier to young people getting into the process, because that's actually where the big deal is. This other one would then take a different form of advocacy. This is a different form of
So would the group consider it in the next phase of its activities?
Yeah, like what Maryam said, it's all inclusive. We'll continue to see, all of the different angles, that we can explore to ensure young people continue to participate, in meaningful ways in governance. So it's something that we're going to continue to look at and to explore. But for this particular one, our target was the constitutional barrier to young people, getting involved in the process. So and that's what we've done now. So the other one is going to be advocacy and continue to appeal to the people in position of authority to open up the space in terms of elective, appointed
Appointed
positions.
positions, yes.
No. That's
Miriam, from not too young to run to ready to run,
Mhm.
what's the agenda?
The agenda is to make sure, just like you said, that this is not in vain. That we may not have young people sweeping the entire elections, which is a possibility. You never know. But in terms of what Not Too Young to Run is trying to do is, we definitely want the democratic process to be easier for at least a few young people that we find to be credible and who we can support in the process before and after winning elections. So Ready to Run now is just our next step. We want credible leaders, not just young leaders, but young credible leaders who we will support in this process. And it's just such a time where we encourage every other person to bring out credible women, credible young people, to support them, other youth organizations, other young people. Let's make this something that people will not forget. Let's make it that in 2019 this thing is going to happen, and over time, more young people will be involved in the process. That's what I believe.
All right, let's join Mark again on Skype. Mark, what's your take on this? Do you think from not too young to run to ready to run will make any meaningful impact in 2019 election?
Sorry, I didn't get the last one.
I said from not too young to run to ready to run. Do you think this will make any meaningful impact in the 2019 elections?
I believe it. The idea behind it, explained, is to find a platform for young to help planning and to see how to change them. There are many across every who without this we need to have sort of next election. But they are between them. If they are what very next.
All right, Mark, we are having a hitch there. We can barely get what you're saying, but if I actually heard you clearly, I know you're also in support of the movement from not too young to run to ready to run. Frederick, basic challenges that you can sit right here and envisage in the 2019 general elections. Are we likely to see, the youths coming in, if as little as maybe 2-3%, winning elective offices? Do you see that coming up in 2019? Or we should also wait to 2023, as jokingly, put by the president?
I am hopeful. I am hopeful that young people would try. I remember after the bill was assented to by the president, there were a couple of young people that were calling, to say, okay, now we can then get to work, because they were actually waiting, for this bill to be assented to. Even though, like you said, challenges, one is time, but I can assure you that these young people right now have gone to work now that they know that that constitutional barrier has been lifted and has been removed, so most of them are going to work right now to start putting structures in place. So I am hopeful that we would experience a marginal increase in young people, having more young people in elected positions in 2019. We're not going to wait till 2023, that's for sure. We're not waiting. We're not waiting till 2023. And even the one that he actually talked about was actually in respect to his office. His office,
yeah.
His office. And for young people, we know that's actually like it's a tall order, but we encourage everyone. We encourage the Feladro Toyes, the Kingsley Mohalus, and the rest of them, Shivore and all of them. We encourage them to also give this a shot, but it's important that we give it a shot at all levels. But I am hopeful that more young people will do well in 2019.
Maryam, in 1 minute, 2019, the possibilities of having young people, even at 2% level, occupying elective positions.
I think it can happen, but it depends on how people are willing to work towards it right now. Like I said, PVCs, that is what we are going to use to vote in young people, and people coming out to campaign, volunteering for campaigns for young people who are credible, young women who also come out to campaign and run and vie for political office. So there are many even youth-based parties.
Sure.
So right now, it's the time, like Fred said, we have minimal time left. But if people are willing to come out and do the work, I believe that we will see more than 2%.
All right, if you're willing to come out and do the work, 2019 might just be a stepping stone for the Nigerian youth taking over, you know, from our papas and our mamas. Thank you so very much, Frederick, for finding our time to be here today. Miriam,
Thank you.
you're so wonderful. All right, this is how much time will permit us on today's edition of New Day on PTV. We hope we've been able to inform you and to keep you abreast of happenings in and around our country, especially as it relates to the Not Too Young to Run bill, which has actually, you know, become an act as we speak. All right, we hope that 2019 we'll see a lot of youths coming out, maybe from the president to the governors and all of that. That is just our aim, and that's just our prayer. All right, from me and Dan and Nwagboso, we want to say thank you for hooking up with us today, and together with our guests, we want to wish you a favorable and blessed morning, and hope to see you again tomorrow morning, God willing. But first of all, stay out of trouble. Thanks for watching.